9 times. That's how much larger this is than anything global aviation has absorbed in a single night. When Spirit Airlines collapsed last year with 120 planes, the industry spent months recovering. What happened in the early hours of April 3rd, 2027, is something else entirely. 1,103 United Airlines aircraft grounded simultaneously. The world's largest airline, the Rhapsody Blue Tail, that boards more passengers every day than the entire population of Switzerland, was gone by sunrise, leaving 7 major American hubs without their anchor carrier. And here's what nobody is actually talking about. Those 1,103 planes have to go somewhere. They are not disappearing. They are about to begin one of the strangest second acts in the history of commercial aviation. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly where they go. And why some of you watching right now are almost certainly going to fly on one of them without ever knowing it. So, let's rewind to April 3rd, 2027. United Airlines was not a budget experiment or a regional play. It was the world's largest airline by fleet size. 1,103 aircraft, 4,500 daily departures, 40 countries. This was infrastructure at the scale of a national grid. The timing wasn't an accident. 3:15 in the morning was chosen specifically so that every aircraft would be safely on the ground and every crew officially off duty before the news went public. The final flight, UA2291, a Boeing 737 MAX 9 inbound from Seattle, touched down in Denver at 1:52 in the morning, 83 minutes before United's operating certificate was formally surrendered. And then nothing. 100,000 jobs gone. 370 airports across 50 countries suddenly without their single largest carrier. O'Hare, Newark, Denver, Houston, Los Angeles, all of them simultaneously missing the airline that had defined them for decades. The cause was not one thing, it was a perfect storm. United's restructuring plan, filed with the court in January, had assumed jet fuel at $2.89 a gallon. Then the same conflict between the US and Iran that had already killed Spirit sent prices spiking again, this time to $5.14 a gallon. For an airline operating 4,500 daily departures, that single change added roughly $9 billion to the annual fuel bill almost overnight. United's total debt had already climbed to $34.2 billion. A proposed federal loan guarantee of $12 billion, the largest airline rescue in American history, collapsed in February when a consortium of senior creditors declared the restructuring plan insolvent on arrival. And just like that, after $18.7 billion in losses since 2020, and a debt load that had become structurally impossible to refinance, here's where it gets interesting. Because when an airline this size dies, it leaves something behind. 1,103 airplanes. So where do you put 1,103 aircraft? Who owns them? Who gets paid? And most importantly, where do they end up flying next? Let's break it down. United did not file the kind of bankruptcy where you reorganize and try again. This is liquidation. A federal bankruptcy court is now in charge of converting every single asset, every plane, every engine, every gate at O'Hare, every slot at Newark, into cash to pay back creditors. Court filings estimate United's aircraft and engines alone at roughly $38 billion. Airport slots at O'Hare and Newark add another $4.1 billion. Parts inventory adds another $2.3 billion. In other words, United is dead. But United is also a treasure chest. Right now, lessors, competitors, and creditors are simultaneously fighting over the pieces. Which brings us to the most surprising fact about this entire fleet. United didn't own most of its planes. 69%, roughly 761 aircraft, were leased from companies most passengers have never heard of. AerCap, SMBC Aviation Capital, Air Lease Corporation, Avalon. These companies don't fly planes. They own them and rent them to carriers, like landlords renting apartments. And there's a clause buried in US bankruptcy law that changes everything. It is called Section 1110. Under Section 1110, lessors get a 60-day countdown clock. If the airline can't make payments, they have the legal right to walk onto the tarmac and reclaim their aircraft. No waiting behind other creditors. No court battle. Just repossession. The law was designed this way because planes can be flown across an ocean in hours. The moment United collapsed, roughly 1,400 inspectors, ferry pilots, and engineers fanned out across 50 countries to start taking them back. In 2027, the world is still short approximately 3,800 aircraft. Airbus and Boeing have backlogs stretching a decade. So when 761 planes suddenly returned to market, every airline on Earth lined up. Which leads to the next stage of the journey, repainting. Delta, American, and dozens of foreign carriers were already circling. A full repaint runs between $50,000 and $200,000 and takes 1 to 2 weeks per aircraft. Multiply that across 1,103 planes, and the paint bill alone runs between $55 million and $220 million. Some will fly in hybrid liveries for months. Thomas Cook collapsed in 2019 with 93 aircraft. You could still spot their colors on other carriers nearly a year later. United is 12 times that. So if you see a jet at your airport in 2028 with a faintly blue tail, look closer. There might still be a blue globe underneath. But not every plane is headed for a paint shop. Welcome to the desert. Specifically, places like Pinal Air Park in Marana, Arizona, Mojave Air and Spaceport in California, Roswell International in New Mexico, Teruel in Spain. These are the so-called aircraft graveyards, and they exist there for very specific reasons. The dry air slows corrosion, the land is cheap and flat, there are fewer birds and insects to nest inside engines. And here is a wild fact. The world's combined boneyard capacity is roughly 4,000 aircraft. United alone is about to send over a quarter of that number into the desert at once. Storing one of these planes is not like parking a car. Fuel tanks have to be drained and flushed, or bacteria turn the leftover jet fuel into something with the consistency of mayonnaise. Tires get wrapped in Mylar film. Engine inlets are sealed against wildlife. Some aircraft even get heat-reflective coatings. It costs around $5,000 a month per plane to store properly. For 1,103 aircraft, that's $5.5 million a month just in parking fees. But for some of these planes, the ending is even more interesting. They become donors. In aviation, when a plane gets too old or the market is too crowded, it is stripped for parts. The engines come off first because engines are where the real money is. 1,103 aircraft means roughly 2,206 engines suddenly hitting the market. GE GNX engines off the 787s, GE 90s off the 777s. The highest value turbofans in commercial aviation. A single GE90 runs at over $4,000 a day in lease and service contracts. Multiply that across 2,000 engines, and you are looking at a fortune measured in the billions sitting on tarmacs. After the engines come the landing gear, the avionics, the auxiliary power units. Each piece keeps another aircraft flying somewhere in the world. What is left is the bare aluminum skeleton, cut up and sold for scrap. Some of it literally ends up as soda cans. And then there is cargo conversion. A passenger jet can be sent to a facility where workers cut a giant door into the fuselage and rip out every seat, turning it into a freighter that hauls over 20 tons of payload. The global backlog for these conversions is already around 400 aircraft. United's older 757s and A321s are some of the most sought-after conversion candidates on Earth. So, your next overnight delivery, your next package from overseas, has a real chance of flying inside what used to be a United Polaris seat. And this is the twist most people miss. Those 1,103 planes are not disappearing. They are being redistributed. Some will fly for Delta or American under new colors. Some will haul cargo for shippers across Asia. Some will get new lives at budget carriers in Latin America or Europe. Some will end their days in the desert, donating parts to keep other planes alive. And some of you will fly on one yourself, and you will never know it. A commercial aircraft is designed to last 20 to 30 years. Many fly for 40 or more years. In that lifetime, a single plane will typically serve 3 to 5 different airlines, fly across multiple continents, and rack up tens of thousands of pressurization cycles. So when you read the headlines about 100,000 jobs lost, about a 40-year-old airline vanishing overnight, remember what is actually happening behind the scenes. Ferry pilots flying empty jets out of Denver at sunrise. Lessors signing fresh contracts in glass towers. Mechanics in the desert wrapping tires in silver film. Those 1,103 planes did not disappear. They are just starting their next life somewhere,